Hey guys, this is Andrei, a certified translator and a real estate concierge. Today we have an unusual setting. We're indoors because I forgot my tripods in the car. The car is in the garage, so we'll be broadcasting from a somewhat unusual place, but it looks kind of sweet and lilac. So today we're going to talk about bad guys again, and it's not really about taking someone to court or broadcasting the execution of them live, because we're still months away from anything solid and serious against these guys. But for now, as my client's patience is running dry, the names of the bad guys are going to be on the screen today. So thank you for staying with the channel and with the story. I understand most of you are not from the region of India, Pakistan and the whereabouts, and most of you are not affected by this, but the methods of dealing with such problems may be of some interest to the rest of my audience. So thank you for staying with the channel. Thank you for your help. Press the thanks button under the video. If you're enjoying it, any feedback is welcome. We're beginning now. So we'll start with news which aren't really bad news, but may go with a positive sign before them. We have more guys coming into Belarus to testify against our bad guys, and the more people are speaking up, the better. Of course, some of you that may be affected by one of the unfair operators, let's call them this way. We can't call them criminals until the court says otherwise officially, so we will just say bad guys and we won't name all the names for now. But more guys are coming, and a rumor has been spread by one of the top operators, the blogger guy I mentioned. He's telling everybody that he got my client Kavaljit and his wife deported. I wouldn't say this is correct. This is just because the migration office wasn't very cooperative in extending their stay, which they had legal grounds to do, because the whole story from the start was kind of very messy. They got companies created by this unfair guy number one, Zia Khan. I'm naming the name official, Zia Khan, a Pakistani national who is not really a lawyer, who got them overcharged and just started the mess. He came recommended by two more guys. They are Mohanty brothers. They are still operating in Minsk. And we have written evidence that neither of these guys are basically responsible for their words and are not delivering their written or unwritten promises. So let's see what happened in detail. The rumor that is now being circulated by our blogger friend about the deportation of Kavaljit, my client and my friend, is a lie, because he isn't really that well connected. He knows a lot of fancy terms and fancy offices and maybe some names of the government officials, but names, not really the officials. So his influence isn't that gross and global so as to get people kicked out of the country. And I could bet some money that in a month or so, if our official case against Zia Khan is going to be successful, he's going to fly into Belarus and testify against the bugger in the court. And I'll be really pretty much investing all my effort to make this happen. So he's not deported, he's not banned, he is away from India, but this changes nothing for the bad guys who owe him money here in Belarus. And I happen to represent Kavaljit while he's away. By saying that persecution and police involvement is a really long-term process, I mean it. That's why I was almost begging the bad guys that we were in touch with to answer our calls, to make a dialogue, to reply to our queries and clarify their obligations and deadlines, which they have been clearly avoiding lately. So we are into legal action now. That's why I'm naming some of the names. That's maybe half of the bad guys, basically, that owe us money, and anybody who is keen to report a fraud or a crime against him or her must lay the evidence on the table. Guys, you should be more practical, and any evidence like messaging history, any phone calls recorded, any meetings, let's say, recorded, any written obligations, anything solid, anything serious, anything that's different from, oh, he said and he promised and blah, 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 it didn't work out. This doesn't work. It has to be on the table, really, so that the police could match your solid evidence against the other guy's solid evidence. And then the mismatch may work against him or against you, depending on how solid you are. So before you take any action like that, like going to the police, you may want to check with a professional lawyer. Obviously, I have one. after I tackled my builders in 2018, I'm pretty much into legal things. I mean, rather passionately interested in how they work. Not really, I'm not a lawyer, this is not a legal advice, I'm just telling you your homework scale, more or less. So again, going back to the names, speaking of Zia Khan, the Pakistani citizen, has been quite active here, introducing himself as a lawyer, and at some time he was interacting with a certain legal company that seems not involved, but this may play differently in court. So right now, Zia Khan is bad news to anybody. And Zia, if you're watching the video, we told you should cooperate with us about the money you took and the results you never delivered. And anybody meeting you now, anybody shaking your hands, you're bad news for them. So I would recommend anybody knowing his whereabouts to report this either to the police directly or to pass the message to me informally. And we will handle it, and we will facilitate the meeting of Mr. Khan with the cops of the city of Minsk. They have a lot of questions to ask. I would like to remind you the story briefly. Mr. Khan promised permanent residency to my clients, claiming he had some government connections and that there was a special program for the foreigners to be granted permanent residency some 40 days after they get temporary residency, and he was given $20,000, which he confirmed in writing. We have the proof for this, but obviously permanent residency never came. So since that time, the dialogue between him and my clients was barely any constructive. And another quick story about our little investors, the Mohanty brothers, Jagen and Shiben. They live in Minsk for now. They have, let's say, pretty much they have borrowed money with a third person that remains very stubborn, very uncooperative. And again, I'm talking about official cooperation, official and peaceful and pre-court resolution of the matter. They took some $42,000 from my client with a return date to be on the 3rd of October. And they seem to be celebrating the departure of Kavalji to India. But again, the bad news that I'm still here. And I'm really keen for them to be responsible for their words and their written obligations. I have all the paperwork stacked up. Right now, the police is working with these very fine gentlemen who are not to be trusted if we remember our experience. Again, we have all the proof. We are ready to go to court for this and with this, and we would really like for them to start talking like humans, instead of using official terms and half-educated local friends that come to the police but really cannot do the translator's job clearly and professionally. So this was about it. It's not super emotional clip as it may have been. I still have to dig into the materials of the case that we now have almost complete before investigation accepts it. And based on my findings and my consultancy with the lawyer, we'll see what else can be done about the big blogger friend of ours. I would like to congratulate him on his first successful escape from the justice. But for now, we have cost him roughly $10,000 to $20,000, telling the people who were about to have deals with him, and by breaking these deals. So his reply to a mutual friend of ours that Andrei can call him, he knows his number, is not going to work. Either the guy is going to talk to us before the court, or we're going to meet each other in the official institutions, and then his business is going to lose much more. And again, I'm talking about official, constructive collaboration and cooperation before this goes into any higher departments or any courtrooms. Lawyers are expensive, courts are long-term, so I perhaps naively would like to recommend all the bad guys who do not really keep their word to basically cooperate with those who charge them, because otherwise it will be long, expensive, and all this bullshit afterwards. Oh, why did it cost so much? We should have talked to each other. That's what my builder told me after 2 years in courts, when I won the courts and when I could charge my money. So, well, this is about it. I hope you like the new settings. I hope that the content is becoming more and more involving. If you were affected by the guys I mentioned, please send me a message. And if you have solid proof, of course, not says and said, wrote, blah, blah, blah. Anything you'd like to add, anything you'd like to ask, I'll be happy to elaborate upon in my videos. And cheers from Minsk. If you're anywhere around, please visit us on Sunday meetings. Next meeting is this Sunday at the bar. Announcement is down below under the video. Otherwise, cheers from Minsk. Keep safe. Seems like they're rolling out a new COVID version if you still care about this. And cheers.